All right, so we are here in the hot Arkansas sun, and we are learning about the split flow pump. Give me the 1, 2, 3s of this instrument.
Split flow pump is a 10,000 PSI hydraulic pump. It's the backbone of a lot of the different systems that we rent out to clients, and also part of our sales strategy. This one here is a 4-port split flow pump. So what that means is we get equal oil flow regardless of the pressure at 4 ports. And for us, that means when we hook it up to cylinders, cube jacks, sliding systems, we're gonna get even displacement on the load, regardless of whatever the pressure might be at that point. We do have the ability to hook in a synchronous system to this as well. And so that means that we can run from one control 4 of these pumps together and hook in sensors and pressure transducers so that we can actually have not just an equal flow system, but we can have a synchronized and closed loop system. Yeah, it works good. It makes it flexible for our fleet, and if somebody wants just a split flow pump, we can send that, and they'll hit the button on the pendant, and the cylinders will move evenly, either back, out or back, or up or down, whatever we need to do.
Okay, so it arrives on the job site. What do we do first?
Yeah,
Walk me through that. 1, 2, 3.
So normally it's going to come on a truck, right? Guy pulls up, grabs it with a forklift. It's got pockets on the bottom, so they'll get up underneath it, move it to wherever it needs to go. A lot of times that's going to be, some close distance to wherever the lifting is happening. They'll set it up, get it on level ground, and then we'll run power to it.
Tell me about the power.
We need 30 amps of power, so we've got a specialty adapter at the bottom of it that can take in a plug. We'll send a cord with it, so all you got to do is either hook that into the house power or into the generator that you're using on site.
Oh, very good.
Next. Yeah, once that's set up, what they'll do is they'll run the pendant. So the pendant is really what the operator will use to control the pump, and that gives them the ability to stop action if they need to with an emergency stop, but also turn on the individual points. So if I want, cylinder 1 to be on, I'd click the switch, 2, 3, or 4. And then if I need to extend or retract those cylinders, I can do that with this button. So by using this pendant, I can get a little bit away from the lift, but I can also, operate and have complete control over what's going on with this power unit.
So where does that plug in?
Yep, so if we look over here on this side of the pump, we've got the electrical panel. So our power runs up into here. The pendant actually moves into the bottom of the electrical panel here. And this is where we have the ability to then turn on the power for the pump and also start the motor, reset any safety alarms that we might have. And when we're done, we can depressurize the system so that it doesn't, the hoses that might be sitting out in the hot Arkansas sun might not get pressurized up on the couplers.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, so that's where it plugs in, and we learned about that. So they get it on, and what happens next?
Yep, so we would move around to the other side of the pump, and I'll show you where the valve stacks are. That's where we would hook in the hoses, and that's where, once we have all our hoses laid out correctly, then we can operate the pump via the pendant.
All right, let's go check that out.
Yep.
Okay, so here are the hoses. Tell me about this.
Yep, so this is set up for single acting or double acting cylinders. We've got our advanced lines for the hoses here and our retract lines here. So any cylinder that we hook up to that's going to be double acting, this will be our push side of the cylinder, this will be our pull side of the cylinder. We've got it hooked up to some slide systems today, but this is always going to be push and pull. The one thing that we want to look at beyond the hoses, making sure we get them pushed in all the way and connected, is we have a valve here, and this is going to control our return flow from those cylinders. So we want to have those all be set the same. So regardless of pressure, these are pressure compensated flow control valves. These are going to allow us to lower evenly when we're doing a lift, and they're going to allow the cylinders to come back evenly regardless of any load that might be pushing on them, which is really important.
So you get the hoses hooked up.
Yep.
And then you make sure all these knobs are all calibrated likewise.
That's right.
To each other.
That's right.
Okay.
If we're doing a sliding system, a lot of times we'll just be wide open on them. when we're doing a lifting system, we're going to probably have them neck down so that they can control that descent speed and make sure that they're not coming down too quickly.
Oh yeah, well that makes sense. Perfect. Well, that's a heck of a feature.
Yep. And then we've got pressure gauges for each outlet. So these are going to tell us what's going on there. And like I said before, these are going to give equal flow even if we get different pressures, which is important because a lot of times you get a lift and it's not necessarily going to be every cylinder sees 50 tons. You might see less on one, more on the other, but it's still going to come up evenly.
Yes, yes. Any troubleshooting tips?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just turn on the pump, right?
Yeah.
So as basic as that sounds, you know, a lot of times someone will be out there getting ready to go. Okay, I'm ready. Pushing the buttons, you hear the valves fire, but actually the load's not moving because the pump's not on.
Pump's not
so
on, yeah.
Turn the pump on,
yeah.
step one.
Where do you turn the pump on?
You're going to do that on the panel over here.
The panel, got it.
Yep,
Okay.
so you'll just hit the green button over there.
Yep.
And that'll fire the pump on.
Got it, there it is.
Yep.
Start, stop.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Start it. Once the pump motor's running, then we can go ahead and hit the pendant, and that's going to give us the ability to raise or lower depending on what we're doing in that operation.
Well, let me see if I can walk through this really quick. So step number one, place it.
Step number
and it's
one.
got shoes where you can get a forklift there and place it where it needs to be, somewhere to a near distance of where you're doing your work.
Correct.
Okay. Step number two is get it powered up, right? Or get it plugged in.
Yep.
Okay. Step number three, we're going to plug in our pendant. Right, and then that goes in right underneath over here.
Yes.
Step number four, now we start hooking up our hydraulic hoses.
Correct.
All right. Top push,
Yep.
bottom pull.
Correct.
That's how it goes.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Very good. Okay, so after we get that all hooked up, and now we're ready to start moving, is that right?
Right. So I would take the pendant. If I have 4 cylinders set up, I would turn on cylinders 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now as the operator, if I'm going to go ahead and lift, I would hit extend on the pendant. That's going to cause my cylinders to go up. If it's a cube jack or something that's a stage lift, I'll extend until I reach the end of stroke. I'll stop. The operator will put the cube in, and then I would hit retract. That will cause the cylinder to retract, and then I'm ready to go ahead and do the next incremental step.
Excellent.
You know, as far as you said something about troubleshooting,
Yeah.
I think, you know, big things that people miss, sometimes they'll put hose 1 from cylinder 1 into the right spot. They'll put hose 2 from cylinder 1 into the wrong spot. So it's always a good idea to check and make sure that we get the hoses into the proper setup.
Yes.
Number 1 for cylinder 1, number 2 for cylinder 1. And make sure you don't get those crossed, because it will look like it's right up until you start to run it, and then you'll get a pressure spike or something else happen with the system.
Explain that to me again. Cylinder 1 and 2, how did that go again?
Yeah, so we have cylinder advance and cylinder retract. So we want to make sure if the bottom port on our cylinder is advanced when we're doing lifting, we want to make sure that that goes up into this top slot. But from the same cylinder, we want to make sure that the retracts hose on that one is going to go into the retract or the bottom spot.
Understood.
On this.
Got it, yeah, for sure.
And they label it A and B
A
to
and
kind of
B.
make it easy for you. A is advance, B is retract.
Okay. A is advance, B is retract.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Good troubleshooting tip.
Yep. The other thing, when you're using the pendant, if we're firing the valves, we are going to have lights on the valves. So when it's working properly, we'll see, if I'm firing to extend the cylinder, I'm going to see this light up. If I'm firing to retract the cylinder, I'll see that light up. So, if something isn't working, for example, maybe during shipment, something electronic might have got jostled, we can check to see if we have an electrical issue or if maybe we have some other kind of issue going on, no flow, or maybe dirt's in a valve or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what's next? Do we cover it all up to the point that we can start actually powering the machine and utilizing the tool?
Yep. That's everything you'd need to know to operate the split flow pump. So it's relatively simple.
Yeah.
You remember to set it up on site. Remember to get your power hooked up to it properly. Check and make sure your motor's running. Get your pendant hooked up. Get your hoses hooked in correctly. And then once you turn on the cylinders that you want to use, you're ready to hit the buttons and operate the pump.
You got to make sure that pump's on, though, right?
Correct.
Yeah, you got to turn the pump on. Yeah.
Make sure your e-stop's not pushed. Make sure your pump's on.
Yeah.
Make sure your hoses are hooked up correctly. Those are the main ones.
Yeah, great education, Mike. Thank you
Yep.
very much, brother.
Yep, no
Okay,
problem.
very good. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Engineered Rigging. Your people, our equipment.